So when we talk about how bad the U.S. Supreme Court is, we usually only talk about Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. Alito for flying the upside down flag in support of January 6th, the appeal to heaven flag, and now there was a story I did a video on talking about how he was taking gifts from a German princess. And Clarence Thomas also for taking gifts from his billionaire best friend Harlan Crow and other donors and things like that in excess of what is looking to be $4 million over his career. But as we're talking about them, we're forgetting about John Roberts. And John Roberts is just as bad. When they were looking at the Colorado ruling, where they said no one state could enforce the 14th Amendment and kick a presidential candidate off the ballot, he was pushing for that decision to be unsigned and have it be unanimous. And they were going to, up until the point when the conservatives pushed to have a clause in there saying Congress must act first. And 4 justices dissented with that part of it, and they wrote a concurring opinion saying that one state can't just unilaterally kick a candidate off the ballot, but that they didn't agree that Congress must act first, leaving the pathway open for, say, a federal court to do it. When they were talking about the January 6th rioters, he wrote the opinion that said that the government went too far with some of their charging, especially over the obstruction charge, and they said it only related to documents and destruction of documents, things like that. Well, originally Alito was going to write that opinion, and then like right after Alito was starting to work on it, that's when the fact that Alito had the upside down flag and all that whole story came out, and then John Roberts said, "No, I'm writing that." And he took it back and wrote that whole opinion himself. And then beyond that, when it came down to the immunity ruling, John Roberts again wrote the immunity ruling himself. And he had a very heavy interest in whether or not the Supreme Court took that case and how they were going to issue their ruling, etc. He wrote the ruling in the opinion himself. John Roberts is just as bad as Alito and Thomas. Now, how do we fix the court? Well, we could expand the court. That is probably the easiest option at this point. That would just take a law passed through Congress, which Vice President Kamala Harris could do with a favorable Congress for her in her first term as president. Beyond that, they could do a code of ethics that could impeach the justices, but impeachment requires 2/3 of the Senate, and I just don't see that happening to remove a Supreme Court justice, let alone 3. And, then there's always just waiting for them to retire. Alito and Thomas are in their mid-70s, I believe. John Roberts is 70, so that could happen at any point as well. And if Kamala Harris is very popular, like I think she's going to be as president, she could easily win another term. And then in 8 years, John Roberts would be 78. And in that time frame, I could see something coming up where he may want to retire. So we need to do something to fix the court, but we can't be solely focused on Alito and Thomas. John Roberts is just as bad as the other ones.